Neural nirvana, every moment of your life, every identity you've ever clung to, every person you've loved or lost, every failure you've grown from or shrunk beneath, lives within the vast, invisible architecture of memory. But what is memory really? Is it a dusty archive in the brain's backroom? A video library we access when we want to reminisce? Or is it something far more fluid, more alive? Science has long tried to pin it down. We've identified regions like the hippocampus, the amygdala, and the prefrontal cortex, each playing its part in the grand symphony of recollection. We've studied short-term versus long-term memory, semantic versus episodic memory, procedural versus emotional memory. But as we peel back the layers, something strange emerges. Memory is not stored like files on a hard drive. It's reassembled, reconstructed, every time we remember. Each time you recall an event, your brain isn't simply retrieving a pristine record. It's recreating it from scratch, blending old neural patterns with new context, new meaning, and even new emotion. In other words, remembering is a creative act, and that means forgetting might be too. When we forget something, it isn't necessarily lost. It may have simply become unreachable, drowned in noise, refiled by emotion, or edited by the quiet self-preservation instincts of the psyche. This isn't just neuroscience. This is the story of who we think we are. Because what are you, if not your memories? Your sense of self, your name, your history, your traumas and triumphs, they all lean on memory like scaffolding. But if memory is unreliable, malleable, and even illusory, then what does that say about you? Are you a stable identity, or a story your brain keeps rewriting? Let's step back. Imagine the brain not as a warehouse, but as a cartographer. Its job isn't to preserve facts, but to make maps. Maps of experience, maps of relationships, maps of meaning. These cognitive maps, flexible, adaptive, and deeply personal, guide how we perceive the world, how we react, how we survive. But they're not objective. They're not even accurate. They're useful. And this is crucial. You don't remember the world as it is. You remember the world in a way that helps you navigate it. That's why two people can live through the same event and remember it completely differently. Memory bends to belief. It warps around emotion. It conforms to expectation. And sometimes, it lies. Not out of malice, but to preserve a version of reality you can live with. Consider trauma. When something overwhelms the psyche, when pain exceeds processing, the mind sometimes fragments memory, tucking it away in dark corners, dissociating it from conscious awareness. This is not weakness. This is protection. But protection has a cost. Because those forgotten fragments don't disappear, they leak, they echo. They shape how we love, fear, fight, and flee, often without our knowledge. The map of the mind becomes skewed, the terrain gets distorted, and suddenly, the past begins to bleed into the present. This is the hidden power of memory. It's not just about the past. It's about how the past filters the present. And in that filtering, we either become trapped or awakened. Let's go deeper. Neuroscientist Joseph Ledoux famously distinguished between implicit memory and explicit memory. The former is unconscious, automatic, and emotional, the way your body tenses before your mind remembers the trauma. The latter is conscious, narrative, and linguistic, the story you tell about what happened. But these systems don't always agree. You might tell yourself you're safe now, but your body still flinches. You might say you've moved on. But your nervous system still hums with the ghost of the past. This is where healing begins, not by rewriting the story alone, but by remapping the body. Memory isn't just in the brain, it's in the breath, the heartbeat, the posture, the micro-expressions and muscle tensions that store experiences like sediment in a riverbed. And here's the paradox. To truly remember, we often have to feel what we forgot. But here's where things get even stranger. There's evidence, both scientific and anecdotal, that some memories aren't even personal. Consider Carl Jung's idea of the collective unconscious, the notion that deep beneath the personal psyche lies a shared memory space, archetypes, mythic patterns, ancestral echoes. Could it be that some of your dreams, fears, or flashes of insight aren't yours alone? Could memory, like consciousness, be a field, not confined to one brain, but shared across generations, species, even time? Some indigenous traditions speak of ancestral memory as a living current, a knowing that speaks through blood, bone, and vision. And emerging research into epigenetics suggests they may not be far off. Because trauma, it turns out, can leave biochemical markers on our DNA, changes that can be passed down across generations. What your grandmother feared might still live in your cells. What your ancestors endured might still whisper through your reactions. So what is memory really? A neurological process? A psychic imprint? A cosmic tapestry? Maybe it's all three. Maybe memory isn't a thing to be stored but a movement, a dynamic process that shapes and reshapes identity like waves on a shore. And maybe that means your identity is not a noun, but a verb. You are not your past. You are the way you carry it. You are the way you let it shape or release your present. This is the mystery we'll explore in this episode of Neural Nirvana. Not just how memory works, but how it weaves who we think we are, and how, by seeing through the map, we may find the freedom that was always beneath the terrain. Let's begin with an unsettling truth. You don't remember your life, you recreate it. Every time you recall your first heartbreak, a childhood birthday, or the sound of your mother's laugh, your brain isn't playing back a recording. It's painting a picture from neural fragments, emotional impressions, and imagined reconstructions. Each memory is a remix, a reconstruction based on what survived, and what your present self needs to believe. And so, memory is as much about the present as it is the past. Neuroscience calls this reconsolidation. Each time a memory is retrieved, it becomes pliable, susceptible to change, before being stored again. New emotions, new interpretations, new narratives get baked in. And over time, the original fades. Not into nothingness, but into something new. Think of it this way. Your memories are not anchors, they are sails. They guide you forward, often subtly, sometimes wildly, depending on the winds of present emotion, context, and need. This isn't failure, it's design. Your brain is not built for accuracy, it's built for adaptability. The goal of memory isn't to preserve. It's to serve, to help you survive, bond, grow, and navigate complexity. This is why false memories can feel just as real, sometimes even more real, than accurate ones. Your brain will confidently fill in blanks it doesn't recall, blending imagination and belief into seamless illusion. And yet, these illusions shape you. They define your loyalties. They influence your fears. They sculpt your sense of identity, possibility, and truth, which leads to a stunning realization. Your identity is an act of imagination. Not just a reflection of the past, but a creation of the present mind trying to make meaning from it. In fact, meaning itself may be the key. Memory isn't valuable for what it recalls, but for how it gives meaning to your life. This is why we revisit painful events. Not because we enjoy suffering, but because we're trying to understand, to weave those moments into a narrative that makes sense, that feels coherent, that aligns with who we believe we are. In this way, memory is storytelling, and you are both author and character. But here's the danger. If the story is never questioned, it can become a prison. A single traumatic event can anchor a whole identity. A childhood of rejection can whisper into every relationship. A betrayal can become a worldview. This is not because the memory is false, but because it has never been recontextualized. And this is the gift of awareness. To step back from the story. To see the memory not just as what happened, but as what I made it mean. And in that shift, healing begins. Consider the therapy technique called memory reconsolidation. In this process, clients revisit emotionally charged memories not to erase them, but to overlay them with new experiences of safety, love, or agency. And the brain responds. Neural networks reorganize. Emotional charge diminishes. The memory softens, shifts, transforms. This isn't erasure. its evolution, and it suggests something profound. The past can be changed, not in fact, but in feeling. And that feeling determines who you become. Let's take this further. If memory is mutable, and identity is shaped by memory, then the self is not a stable object, but a dynamic process, a flowing, changing narrative. This aligns with what Buddhist psychology has taught for centuries, that the self is not fixed, but composed of 5 skandhas, impermanent aggregates like sensation, perception, and mental formations. One of those skandhas? Memory. In other words, the self isn't a thing, it's a pattern, held together, loosely, by memory. But here's where it gets cosmic. What if that pattern isn't just yours? What if your memory, your sense of self, your very thoughts, are shaped by fields beyond your own experience? This brings us to the theory of morphic resonance, proposed by Rupert Sheldrake, a controversial idea suggesting that memory is not stored in the brain, but accessed through non-local fields, like radio waves tuning into a broader signal. In this view, memory doesn't live inside your skull. It's part of a shared field, a resonance of past forms and patterns. This would explain phenomena like collective intuition, déjà vu, and ancestral echoes. It also aligns with ancient ideas, from the Akashic records in Vedanta to the Dreamtime in Aboriginal cosmology, all pointing to memory as something you tap into, not simply something you store. And yet, even without invoking the metaphysical, neuroscience shows that memory is relational. We don't just remember in isolation, we remember through connection. Your memories are shaped by the faces you trust, the stories you're told, the narratives reinforced by community, culture, and language. You are not the sole author of your story. You are a co-writer in a vast collective novel. And sometimes healing comes from changing the chorus around you, the people who echo your worth, your pain, your possibility. Because as much as trauma can be passed down, so can healing. This brings us to one final paradox. To heal memory, you don't need to remember everything. You don't need to retrieve every forgotten scene, every locked-away moment. You need to become present enough and safe enough to allow new maps to form. Maps that say, I am not broken. I am not only what happened to me. I am not the sum of my pain. And in that map, the terrain of the mind changes, new connections form, new meaning emerges, and the story continues, not as repetition, but as transformation. You are not a prisoner of memory. You are its alchemist, the one who can transmute pain into wisdom, loss into love, fragments into freedom, not by forgetting the past, but by remembering it differently. There's a strange thing that happens when we really begin to look at memory. We find that we are not remembering, we are becoming. Every recollection reconfigures us, not just mentally, but emotionally, even biologically. The past isn't just something behind us. It pulses inside us, coloring every perception, guiding every decision, whispering in every silence. And yet, memory is fragile. Studies show that eyewitness testimony, something long held as reliable, is actually shockingly malleable. People misremember details, conflate timelines, even invent events to fill gaps. Why? Because memory isn't stored like files in a cabinet. It's dynamic, woven into your entire nervous system, inseparable from emotion, belief, and sense of self. And here's the kicker. When we remember something, we don't just pull it out and put it back untouched. We edit it. We reshape it based on who we are now. In this way, memory is not history, it's identity maintenance. But identity is a moving target. Who you were when the memory was formed, who you are now remembering it, and who you want to become, all meet in that moment of recollection, colliding, combining, creating something new. Let's pause here, because this isn't just abstract psychology. This is life. Think of a time you felt wronged, betrayed, abandoned. Now think of how you used that memory. Did it guard you from future pain? Did it justify mistrust? Did it reinforce a belief about your worth, or lack thereof? Now, think of a time that memory softened. Maybe someone told you the other side of the story. Maybe you gained new maturity or saw that moment from a new angle. Suddenly the story changed. Same facts, different framing, different you. That's the power of memory. It's not fixed, it's a mirror. And sometimes the mirror reflects your pain. Sometimes it reflects your power. But the greatest gift is this. You can learn to choose what story you're reflecting. Let's bring this to the brain. Neuroimaging studies show that when we recall a memory, the same brain regions light up as when the original event occurred. But when we reframe a memory, say by using cognitive reappraisal, those patterns change. The brain literally rewires itself in real time. This is neuroplasticity at work. And it means this: you are not stuck, not even in your own story. Therapies like EMDR, eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, help clients reduce trauma by linking distressing memories with new bilateral stimulation, changing how the brain stores and reacts to those memories. Psychedelic therapy is showing similar promise. By temporarily quieting the default mode network, substances like psilocybin allow memories to be revisited from a non-egoic perspective, dissolving shame, fear, or identification. What emerges? Compassion, forgiveness, perspective. Because when the self steps aside, the story can be retold, not as victimhood, but as evolution. Even outside therapy, this transformation can occur. Through journaling, art, music, meditation, we reshape our maps. Each time we revisit a memory from a new place, we carve a new path in the neural landscape. And eventually, that new path becomes home. This is why mindfulness matters. To witness a memory arise and not become it. To hold it gently, see it clearly, and allow it to pass without clinging or condemnation. In doing so, we build meta-memory, the awareness of memory's impermanence. And from that place, we become free. But let's not romanticize it. Some memories are deep wounds. They haunt. They ache. They linger like smoke in the lungs of the soul. And healing isn't instant. It's a practice, a returning. Not to the moment of pain, but to the possibility of meaning beyond it. Because meaning is what saves us. When Viktor Frankl wrote from the horror of concentration camps, he observed that those who survived were not the strongest, but those who found meaning in suffering. That meaning didn't erase the pain, but it gave the pain a place within a larger story. And that's the invitation, to expand the story, to stop seeing memory as a verdict, and start seeing it as a verse in the poem of your becoming. Let's zoom out even further. What if memory isn't just personal? What if it's collective? Carl Jung spoke of the collective unconscious, a reservoir of archetypes and ancestral memory we all share. Modern science hints at this too, in studies on epigenetics, trauma responses passed down through generations, encoded not in stories, but in cells. This means you might be carrying memories that aren't yours, fears that echo your grandmother's flight, longings that mirror an ancestor's dream, patterns born from a time your mind has never known, but your body never forgot. And again, this isn't fatalism, it's a call to awareness. Because in seeing the roots, you gain the power to reroute. You don't have to live as a ghost of their pain. You can become a vessel for their healing. By remembering differently, you help the entire lineage remember differently. This is memory as liberation. And it's not just about pain, it's also about joy. How often do we replay the worst moments of our lives and skip over the wonder? What if instead we practiced remembering what made us light up? What moments felt like home? What words touched the soul? Because just as trauma rewires, so does beauty. Savoring a memory of love, awe, or connection activates the same circuits as the original experience, reinforcing neural patterns of trust, openness, and joy. You become what you remember. So choose your memory diet wisely. You are the cartographer of your own consciousness. The more intentionally you map, the more fully you can live. Let's bring it all home. If the mind is a landscape and memory is the map, then meaning is the compass. Without it, we wander. We circle familiar terrain. We confuse motion for direction. But with meaning, We orient. We move with purpose. We connect where we've been with where we're going. And yet, meaning is not something we find, like a hidden object waiting in the forest. It's something we make, every day, every moment, every breath. When we remember something painful and choose to meet it with curiosity instead of fear, we make meaning. When we see our flaws not as failures but as fingerprints of learning, we make meaning. When we pause in awe at the beauty of a single leaf, or the ache in a cello's note, we make meaning. And the more meaning we make, the more integrated our memories become. Trauma fragments the map, meaning weaves it back together. Now here's a paradox. Sometimes the deepest meaning arises not from understanding, but from surrender. When we stop trying to control the story, the narrative loosens, and a deeper wisdom seeps in. That moment when you look back at your life and think, I wouldn't have chosen it, but I wouldn't change it. That's the alchemy of memory. It's what makes us artists, even if we never touch a canvas. Because each of us is painting our life, stroke by stroke, with every recollection we choose to reframe, release, or revere. Let's return for a moment to the neuroscience. There's a fascinating phenomenon known as memory reconsolidation. It tells us this. Each time we retrieve a memory, it becomes temporarily unstable, like a file pulled from a hard drive. During this time, it can be updated, edited, even erased. Then, it's saved again, rewritten into the neural network. This means every time you remember, you remake. And with conscious intention, that process can become healing. It's not just therapy. It's not just science. It's self-alchemy. And it doesn't require a lab or a guide. It requires presence. To slow down. To see what you've been carrying and ask if it still belongs. To feel what arises, without judgment. To speak your truth, even if it trembles. To honor your story, and then step beyond it. Because you are not your past. You are not even your memory of it. You are the awareness in which all memory arises, and through which it can be transmuted. Let's talk about technology for a moment. We're living in a time where memory is increasingly outsourced. Photos stored on clouds, reminders beeping from devices, timelines curated by algorithms. It's easy to confuse recall with reflection. But memory isn't about having access to facts. It's about forming meaning through personal contact with experience. When memory becomes passive, we lose something sacred. The ritual of remembrance, the pause, the heartbeat. The breath between that happened and this is what it means to me now. So we must reclaim our right to remember, not just accurately but artfully. And yes, memory fails. People with Alzheimer's and dementia remind us that the scaffolding of identity can crumble. But even in those fading echoes, love often remains. A touch, a song, a gaze. Because beneath memory is presence. And sometimes the deepest truths aren't stored in neurons, but in the field between us. A place where stories dissolve and only being remains. Let's end with this. The brain is not a vault, it's a garden. Memories are not locked away. They're alive, growing, withering, blooming again in new seasons. You are both the gardener and the soil, the weaver and the thread. So when you think of your past, ask, what do I want this memory to teach me now? What am I ready to release? What version of myself is trying to emerge? Then listen, not to the voice of shame or should, but to the deeper pulse beneath it all, the one that knows your becoming is still unfolding. You are not a prisoner of your past. You are a portal for transformation. And every time you remember, you get to decide, will I shrink back into the version I once was? Or will I expand into the truth I'm still becoming? Because memory is not just recall. It is resurrection. It is choice. It is creation. And when meaning flows through it, you are not just remembering, you are remaking the world. One neural thread at a time, one breath, one story, one radiant moment, remembered.